Hi students, welcome to the final video in this set of tutorials introducing you to motion tracking. So of course in the previous tutorial we used motion tracking to track the movement of the hand and to attach the car graphic to it so it moves with the hand. I'm actually going to hide the car because we don't need it anymore. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to take things a step further, and we are going to take a look at the idea of attaching a parameter of an effect to a motion tracker, which is a little bit different, but not much. So with the car, we attached the position so that it followed that little path. So let's go back in here and back to we can actually go to our Hi students, welcome to the final video in the tutorial where we are going to learn about, rather than attaching an image or an object in a layer to or attaching a layer itself to a motion track path, we are going to take it a step further and we are going to look at how to attach an effect. So if we open up our lightning test composition here, we have our layer that we did that has our lightning in it. And if you guys recall, when we go into our effects, into advanced lightning, we have the origin and the direction. So the origin is that point where the lightning is starting from, and the direction is the other point. Okay, so I am actually going to copy this layer completely. So that's going to take with it all of those color settings that I set up before, all of the randomizer settings, the decay settings, all that stuff we did in that first tutorial. And I'm going to Control V to paste it right into the scene here. Now, of course, it's a little bit, the size isn't quite right, so we'll do some adjusting. So we have our origin, which is up here. And then I'm actually going to delete the keyframes for the position of the direction and the origin, which are our two endpoints of our lightning, because we're gonna work with those now. So I'm gonna leave the origin up here, so it will remain fixed. Actually, I'm gonna unkeyframe these guys so that it just erases it, so they're just chilling. I'm gonna bring the origin to the palm of my hand, and I'm going to just close that up for the time being. So when we go to our motion tracking menu, like we did before, and we hop over to our layer itself, we'll see that data that we collected before. Then for the moment, our target for that path is the race car. However, we could, in theory, add something else, but since we don't have the ability, this is going to move the whole lightning beam. So this is not going to move the position of the start or the end point. So watch, I'll show you what it looks like when we do that. A whole lot of nothing. So let's undo that. So what we need to be able to do, basically, is to actually attach this point, this direction point, to our motion information, which we need to add what's called a null object to our scene. And that's just sort of it's just sort of a placeholder that we can, it's like linking. We're gonna create the null object, and then it shows up as this little dot here. And we're gonna place that right in the center of our hand. And then what we will be doing is we will be applying the motion movement to this thing, and then linking the directional point, which is the end of the lightning, to this. So this is sort of like a go-between between the lightning end and the motion tracker data. So here's how we do it. We line our null object up with the center of the hand, because that's where everything is supposed to be stuck. And I'm going to turn off the race car because it kind of makes things confusing. Just kind of throw that right there in the center. And incidentally, since we already have all that motion tracker data, if we click into our layer and we change our target, now that we have added the null to our layer, now we can hit apply, okay? And as you can see that now that little square is following our hand. step 1 of 2 complete. It doesn't really matter where in the layer hierarchy or where the layers panel the null is, because it's not even, you don't even see it, it's invisible. So I'm just putting it next to the, next to here. You'll see why in a moment. I'm moving the race car out of the way too. Okay, so the position of the null object we can see has inherited all these keyframes from our motion tracking data. So the next thing we need to do is we need to find our direction, because this is this point here, and we want to stick this to this. So we get to use this fancy little spiral button called the pick whip. So we click on the pick whip from the direction, and then we drop it on the position. And what that does is that links the location of that point to our placeholder object, which is linked to the motion tracking data that we took early on. So now the lightning bolt is going to follow our hand wherever we go. And that's all there is to it. So for the remaining exercise, there is not going to be a video because you are going to be applying your knowledge and practicing your knowledge. So you are going to be doing a video with both of your hands, and you will be tracking motion data on each hand and then linking one side of the lightning bolt to one hand and the other side of the lightning bolt to the other, so that when you move your hands around, the lightning beam will travel between them and it'll be cool. So one last little tidbit is the glow effect on my hand that I did in the other video. Is actually a very simple thing to do. You can just create a solid layer, and I'm going to leave it at white because I want the glow from my hand to be white. And for the moment, whoop, covers up our whole thing. So we are going to use a mask, which we did in the previous set of lessons. And we have our typical square mask that we used before. So we want to change this by going into our mask settings, go into our shape settings, and we are going to reset it to an ellipse. And we are going to double click on our mask to make it very, very small. Because what we're doing is we're creating like a little glowy sphere. Doesn't look like it yet, but that's what we're doing. I am going to bring it right up here to cover up the motion dot on my hand. I am going to feather it so it looks blurry. And then I am going to close this up. And I'm going to use the same principle that I used to link the lightning to the null object. I am going to actually link this to the lightning as well. So I'm going to open up my transform. I'm going to find position. I'm going to open up my null object. There's my position information I want to attach it to. I'm going to grab the pick whip on position, drop it right on there. And it needs a little offset. Whoop. Click undo there. And this is where I introduce you to the final parameter. The anchor point is kind of the center point of the layer. So if what just happened to you, or happened to me, happens to you, you can adjust the anchor point to help fix the settings. So there we go. Just to put a finishing touch on everything, we can click on the white solid and we can add a quick glow effect to it. So we can go up to effects and click on glow. And then we can drag glow to our white solid. And that kind of makes things even more intense. So it looks like there's lightning actually flowing out of our hand, and it's, you know. So you can adjust your glow parameters to get the look that you want. Glow can be a little tricky. There you have it. So those are the steps involved for setting up your lightning bolt to follow your hand, that extra solid layer to simulate that glowing location where the lightning comes from, and how to parent that to that same motion tracking data. So that's it, and good luck with your final project.